in Chicago, kind of going back to some of the police brutality cases. I mean, because there's so many different levels of issues. So we do have the ongoing, the prosecution is going on now with the cop involved in the Laquan McDonald. His counsel wanted access to Laquan's juvenile records. And, rightfully so, the judge she needed for her defense. What exactly in his from before that incident would give you information for your defense when your client shot him in the back, shot him while he was on the ground, and continued to shoot? When your client and others tampered with evidence and lied about the whole thing. Like, why would you need his juvenile? Like, it just seems like we have this, and we see this happen so often, right? With the way the media even depicts these cases, we have the victims, the murdered, made out to be the villain. We have their character is completely assassinated from the beginning in an attempt to save and justify the behavior of the police officers. When in fact, if this were a regular trial, that, if not just the news media putting somebody on trial, the news media, destroying the character, the integrity of the deceased, this information would not be, it would not be relevant at all. We've seen this time and time again. When people are murdered by the police, the media they dig out whatever, little tidbits about them, whatever detrimental or bad things they can find about them. And they're putting it out there as if somehow it justifies what happened in that instance. Because here's the thing, right? When you're looking at what is reasonable, when you're looking at the behavior of the cops involved, they don't know all this stuff. So why does it matter for what their actions, whether or not their actions were justifiable or not? And why don't we ask that question instead of feeding into the feeding frenzy of someone like a Laquan McDonald destroying their character and their memory? And this is not to say that this is not to say that, that they have to be, basically the attitude is a perfect model citizen, then they deserved it. And even if they were a quote unquote perfect model citizen, they'll still find some way to try to defame their character, post-mortem. And that's a problem. So the judge, right, said rightfully so, decided that the lawyers would not be able to have access to and the files, because at one point, Laquan was awarded the state. There's some information that pertains to potential mental health issues. There's like a whole host of things in there, and the argument was that in order to mount a proper defense of self-defense or defense of another, that they needed this information about Laquan. But it's impermissible character evidence. The cop, this is why I have such a problem with the defense of these cases. So this was promising in the way, not promising, but it was good that the judge did handle this way and did not give the defense like any type of impermissible use of information to try and justify this slaughter. His mother, Laquan's mother, her lawyer also argued against the defense's ability to use this information because, like I said, it's not relevant. A lot of times it's information that they try to seek or they try to use in terms of the deceased person. It's not relevant. It has nothing to do with the actual, shooting anyway. And Laquan, it's like, we see so many examples of the justice system of, bending over backwards to protect a defendant, in these police cases. Whereas, I think State Attorney Mosby talked about this, Marilyn Mosby talked about this, during a press conference after she dropped the rest of the charges. in the Freddie Gray line of cases, that, you know, you see, she saw the type of cooperation with police and defendants that she had never seen before. And I think we see that in a lot of cases where prosecutors will even act as if they're defense attorneys. They're going out of their way to find a way to clear these officers instead of holding them accountable under existing laws, practices, and procedures. And as we're talking about having that conversation and building out, like, how do we, you know, how do we start really turning the tide and putting an end to these unjust, unlawful killings? I mean, that's another level to it. Holding people accountable in the process, holding prosecutors, finding a way to hold prosecutors and judges accountable in the process. So seeing that the Cook County judge in this case actually did deny this request from the defense attorney, that was, you know, and it didn't seem like, I mean, there's no real precedent to allow the defendant to get this information either, right? It's not, like I said, it's not relevant, has nothing to do with the incident itself. It's not connected. So yeah, that was something else that was going on.